Hey, what's up, Rockstars? This is Alex Bourne coming at you from the Midwest. I'm going to show you my pod and what settings I use on that today. And because I've been getting a lot of requests for tones and amp settings and stuff like that, I don't really use like an amplifier for my my YouTube videos. I prefer to use a pod and then just record that direct into my computer for a lot of different reasons. And so I just wanted to do a video because explaining all of this is kind of beyond the scope of what I could fit into a comment to respond to you guys' questions. So I hope that this video will take care of a couple questions that you guys have. The reason I use a pod is just because I'm just a really practical person. I like things to be simple, practical, and just you turn them on, ready to go. Something that sounds consistent from one environment to the next. And I'm talking about a lot of different environments. Live settings, direct settings, like recording settings, and just messing around. The pod is very convenient because it's got a ton of effects. It's got a ton of different amplifier models, and the tweakability is just vast. It's immense what you can do with this thing. I still haven't even really scratched the surface of what this thing can do, and I got it about a year ago. So for those of you who don't know, I assume you know what effects are, stomp boxes. A lot of people will just buy, one stomp box for, and that stomp box can only do maybe 2 or 3, 4 sounds really, really well. And, they buy a bunch of pedals and put them all on a pedal board. Which is cool, I've done that before too, I still do that. But to me, I don't like the idea of, something going wrong, like a cable going bad or a power supply going bad, and then all of a sudden your board doesn't work, and you got to troubleshoot it and find out where it is, and that's a worst case scenario, but I really have those things in mind, when I prepare for a performance or something like that. I just like something that's simple, easy, ready to, turn it on, ready to go. That's why I like the pod. So, an amplifier modeler, before you understand what that is, you kind of need to know a little bit about real amplifiers. Like, there's a lot of famous different amplifier models out there. And, like a Vox amplifier is famous for everything for the Beatles sounds to the Edge from U2 or, other kind of poppy sounds. Lots of worship tones are based on Voxes, stuff like that. So, lots of people think Vox amplifiers when they're in those settings. You got Fender amplifiers, which are famous for their clean tones. There's also lots of great distorted or dirty tones that you can get out of them. So Fenders, Marshalls are a famous rock amplifier from everyone from like Jimi Hendrix to AC/DC to Eric Johnson to like 80s metal players, and I think it's one of the big two, Fender and Marshall. So we got Vox, Fender, Marshall. Well, then you got more modern sounds like Mesa Boogie or Orange amplifiers are really hot right now. And rather than spend thousands of dollars on getting like 4 or 5 different amplifier models, 4 or 5 real amps, and lugging those around to different places that I have to play, I'd rather just keep it all in the multi-effects unit. And what an amplifier modeler does is it models all of those famous sounds in a digital way. Generally, a lot of people frown upon the word digital, but it sounds very close, and I'd rather trade a little bit of tone for the sake of practicality. So that's why I use a pod. All right, so I'm going to do a close-up on the pod, so you can see, just in general what I use it for, and then I'm going to do a close-up on the screen, so you can see the settings I use on each patch. This is really only scratching the surface of what the pod can do. I suggest you do some research on your own if you're really interested in the pod. But I just wanted to answer some questions with this video. If you do have a pod, it's going to be pretty easy. You can just see the settings that I use, and if you want to get those, you can dial them in too. Otherwise, if you don't have a pod, there are different settings on amplifiers in general that are kind of consistent all across the board. We have dials for usually an EQ section, like bass, mid, treble. Usually have a drive knob or definitely a volume knob. You might even have a presence knob, something like that. So you can see all the settings on each of my patches, which are pretty close to the functions of real amplifiers. So if you get the settings that you see here, you can get in the general ballpark, and then I suggest using your ear to kind of tweak it, fine-tune it to get the sound that you're looking for. Okay? So here it is. Check it out. So here's the big picture of the pod here. Basically, it's got buttons for different patches, and you can keep in mind you can pretty much program any of these buttons or this pedal to do anything you want. Okay, it's very tweakable. But basically, what I use them for is, over here you got just general buttons for different patches within banks. Okay, basically you got 4 different patches per bank. These ones up here you can use to turn different effects on and off within each bank. And then over here, you just go up and down through banks. Over here you got the expression pedal, which you can assign to a wah function or a volume function. And then over here you got knobs for adjusting EQ and different amplifier kind of settings, just like you would basically on an amplifier. That's the idea. And then see, up here you got all the I/O. You can look that up if you're interested in that. But that's that. You can pretty much program all these things to do whatever you want. So you could assign all these to a different patch if you wanted. Over here we got a looper, which I don't use much, but I would like to use more of it in the future. Over here is tap tempo and tuner, and so if you're interested in it, look it up. There's really more information than I can provide in this video, but just for the sake of your questions, that's what that is. Alright, so here's a close-up of the screen, and this is basically the interface to the user for all the programs that you make. So you can see everything that you're doing. It's very visual. It's got, it uses symbols and diagrams and pictures, which is handy for guitar players rather than, programming code, stuff like that. But one of the cool things about the pod is that any program that you make, you can save as a file, and you can basically trade it on your computer or save it there, or email it to someone, or trade it online, which is actually what they do on the Line 6 website. They have a huge forum where people trade tones and stuff like that, just as sound files. It's really handy, and that's actually where I got this particular tone, which is called Link Main, which I'll explain that to you in a second. That's where I got that tone, and this is what I use as the dirty sound on pretty much all of my guitar videos. It's called Link Main because it's I believe it's the actual patch that Lincoln Brewster uses on his Pod HD500. And if you don't know who Lincoln Brewster is, he's a fantastic guitar player. You should check him out. He's got great tone, and it was great enough that I wanted to sound like him, so that's what I use. And I use this, I pretty much only have two tones that I use on all my videos. I got a dirty one, that's this one, and then a clean tone that I'll also show you in a second. So basically what we got here is the signal chain. So this would be the beginning of the signal chain, like where your guitar goes in, and then this would be the end of your signal chain, where it I guess basically where it's would come out of the, technically after that it would go into the speakers that make you hear something, if you thought about it that way. So over at the beginning, over down here it says what each of these little boxes is. So at the beginning I got a noise gate just to kind of cut down on hiss, noise, stuff like that. It's really handy. Right next to it I got an overdrive. Not too much, just 35%. Right there we've got a compressor. Kind of adds sustain and makes things sound a little bit more balanced. And this would be the amplifier model that I'm using, and this is I guess it's based off of a Plexi on the bright channel. See the settings on that. So here are the settings on the amplifier. That would be this top row of dials right here. So over here on the left we got drive. It's at about 230. Bass at about 730. Mid at about 5 o'clock. Treble 11. Presence 10 o'clock. Volume 12 o'clock. If you get these settings on your amplifier, you know, whichever ones you have, you probably sound pretty close, and then just tweak it from there depending on what you want more or less of. So that's the amplifier there. After the amplifier there are more things that the signal goes through. Got like a volume pedal. Yeah, after the volume pedal we got a delay, which sometimes I turn on and off. If it's like a solo tutorial, then I'll use the delay. If it's like a Green Day like rhythm part, then I'll probably turn it off. So whatever the situation calls for. There's another delay that is usually off, and there would be reverb, 74%. So this is pretty faithful to the original patch called Lincoln Main that you can get off the Line 6 website. I suggest you go there if you really like that sound. It's a great sound. Okay, so so that's that setting, and then let's go to the clean tone. This one is called Masonesque, and that's kind of a fancy name, I guess, but I named it after Brent Mason, who, if you haven't heard of him, you should check him out. He's one of the most recorded guitar players in history. Did a lot of country stuff, but he's really played lots of different styles. Brent Mason is the name, and I named it after him because I guess I started making this patch because I did a bunch of videos on some solos that he did, and this was kind of the tone, or my interpretation of his tone. But I should make it clear that it has changed a lot since I did those Brent Mason videos, so I wouldn't really say this sounds like Brent Mason anymore. I just left the name the way it is. So this one up front, we got a compressor, just kind of a blue Boss type compressor, with volume pedal, a wah, which I hardly ever use on this particular patch. There's a tube screamer right there, which I use a lot. Tube screamer, I don't know, it just adds something. I like it because it adds sustain, and it's just got a unique tone to it. And it's it's very, the drive is very low, so I'm just kind of using it as a color, and it adds sustain too. So a little bit of that. And then the amplifier model that I'm using is a Bassman model, Fender Bassman model, which is really clean sounding. Generally Fenders are, but Bassmans also have great sounding distortion. The settings on that, again, look at the top row. Drive at 3 o'clock, bass at 12, mid at 12, I guess. Treble at 2 or so, presence about noon, volume noon. So like I said, try these on your amp and tweak it to get closer to what the sound that you're looking for. Okay. So after the amplifier, I have a delay that I use on there sometimes. Not very much as of late though. And then a little bit of reverb, just so it doesn't sound so dry. And that's about it. Alright, so that's it for my tone tutorial. If you have any questions, which I hope you have less of, because that was kind of the idea, but if you have more questions, hit me up in the comments. There's also a subscribe button right there now, because YouTube changed. The subscribe button is right there. Hit that and you won't miss a video that I put out. I've been putting out a lot recently. So like I said, try these settings on your amplifier. If you don't have a pod, try them and then just tweak them a little bit until you get the sound that you're looking for. I think that's a good method to use. And if you do have a pod, especially an HD model, you can get really close to this. Some of these tones you can download from the Line 6 website. What else was I gonna say? The HD500 is like the top of the line model, and they do make some less expensive models that are it's the same sounds, the same tones, same models, just a little bit less ways to tweak it, I guess. But you should check out those too if you like them. Hey, any questions, hit me up. I'm Alex Bourne. Cheers!